It's my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker, Marcus Turner. Marcus grew up in La Grande, Oregon. Anybody from La Grande here? Oh, okay. I guess it really is small, okay. While he was destined to be a Beaver, he started college in 1989 at University of Miami as a baseball walk-on. After injury ended his baseball career, he enrolled at Oregon State University and graduated in 1994 in general science and computer science. While growing up, he learned the meaning of hard work and perseverance, as Jennifer just talked about, from his dad, who was an orthodontist, rancher, and entrepreneur. He took those lessons of hard work to heart as a student and when he worked 11 years at Hewlett-Packard. As a new employee at HP, he very quickly moved through the ranks, primarily due to his ability to navigate the corporate environment, his ability to quickly pick up new technical information, and sheer hard work. During his time at HP, he worked at Corvallis, Ireland, San Diego, and then traveled all over the world in his role with HP Consulting. In 2005, he settled in Austin, Texas, and he served as a consultant to fabs around the globe. In 2011, Marcus co-founded Atomic Access, a mobile software solutions company, and serves as the Chief Technology Officer. While Marcus puts in long hours ensuring the success of his startup, he cherishes the moments with his wife and two daughters that are 6 months and 2.5 years. He has already taught his 2.5-year-old daughter the subtraction tables up to 10. So I'm confident his daughter will be following in his footsteps in 20 years as an OSU graduate in EECS. Please join me in welcoming Marcus Turner.
Thanks. Thank you, Dr. Fees, faculty, family, distinguished guests, and most importantly, the class of 2014. It is indeed an honor to have an opportunity to celebrate your achievement with you here tonight. I honestly can't recall much about this day when I was here 20 years ago. I can say with confidence that my head was pounding from the party the night before. I certainly don't remember anything about the speaker, so I promise I'll be brief. In trying to come up with some ideas for the theme, I asked my younger brother, who happens to be a junior here at Oregon State, what your generation would like to hear from me in my brief time. And Jordan was quick to remind me that, like him, you will perceive me as ancient. And he said, "I love you, bro, but even I wouldn't be interested in sitting there listening to you talk." Thus the empty chair. With that reiterated insight, I turned to Jason Dorsey, a friend of mine who's one of the leading authorities on millennial communication strategies. He suggested that I keep my speech to 140 characters or text in the entire thing. So with that, I've scheduled the entire speech on Twitter. You can follow me at Marcus C. Turner. And this way, at least, I won't be bothered by the fact that you're looking at your phones and not listening to me. One of my favorite classroom memories actually came in summer term prior to my senior year. A group of us decided to knock out a full load of upper science computer science classes during the first part of the summer. I'd like to stand up here and tell you that it was out of passion or commitment, but I have to be honest with you. We knew the graduate assistants would teach many of the classes, and not a single one of us was interested in taking a specific class from a specific professor that fall term. It happened to be offered over the summer. Now, I wouldn't mention the professor nor the class, as she's still here, but is no longer teaching and is part of the research department. Anyway, we started off that summer with analysis of algorithms, which was taught by a doctoral candidate from Chile, Marcelo Visconti. I was really looking forward to the class due to my passion for solving anything to do with problems and my aptitude in mathematics. On the first day of class, we sat down, and I'll never forget his words. He said, "Who among you would like to explain the difference between probability and probability?" We were all obviously silent, our faces covered with uncertainty, doubt, and really reconsidering our choice to spend on how to spend the first part of the summer. Frustrated with us, he asked us again, "What is the difference between probability and probability?" Again, we were deadly silent. So he turned around and wrote the words on the blackboard. Provability and probability. We were back in the game. Needless to say, we had fun that term, continuing to evolve what became known as the Visconti lexicon. At the end of the second week, we had our first exam. It only had 3 questions with very simple instructions. Attempt to answer only 2. The first question, which everybody always goes to, was based on the classic children's puzzle, The Towers of Hanoi. You know the one, 3 towers with rings of different sizes, the smaller rings stacked on top of the larger ones. The objective of the puzzle is to move through all the rings from one tower to the final tower, one at a time, never placing a smaller ring on top of a larger ring. As we all know, the iterative solution is quite trivial, 2 to the n minus 1. The recursive solution is simple as well, but it's actually a fabulous example of larger problems, breaking them down into smaller problems. I actually believe in asking this question, he was intending to throw us a bone because it was so trivial, in order to get our summer going well. However, in writing the test late that night, as I'm sure you doctoral candidates can understand, he made a massive mistake. He asked us to solve for the variance in towers, not the variance in rings. By simply adding a 4th tower, the complexity becomes a Reeves puzzle, and is a fabulous example of how solvable problem can be made dramatically more complex by just changing one of the constraints. I simply put an explanation around the fact that the problem wasn't solvable in the amount of time we had, and probably even with our combined mathematical abilities, and moved on to the other 2 problems. Needless to say, nobody in the class had the correct solution for what Marcelo proposed. Initially, he believed that we were failures and we could solve the problem, so he went through the rest of the class trying to solve the problem. He was unable to solve it during the class time, and the next day he told us that it took him 7 hours to complete later that night. I recall, though, admiring his persistence and tenacity, accepting the challenge to eventually come to the completion of the solution. On that, Calvin Coolidge once said, "Nothing in the world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful man with talent. Genius will not. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. Education alone will not. The world is full of educated derelicts. Persistence and determination are omnipotent." I found that to be true throughout my entire career. It's out of your control if there are people more talented than you, smarter than you, and to a point, even better educated than you. It's all about persistence, passion, and determination. It matters not your gender, your ethnic or religious background, your orientation, or your social status. You alone determine what level of passion, persistence, and determination you possess. Sure, talent and intellect and surely education help, but it's the passion, persistence, and determination that will eventually drive you towards success and enable you to realize your goals. One of the greatest lessons that my father taught me was around persistence and determination, which he simply called work ethic, or a long day, or a standard day's work. He worked from the hours prior to dawn to just after dusk, and would often tell me, "Be the first one to pick up the board and the last one to let it go." It was all about ensuring that whatever task I was doing, that I would strive to excel and do the best job I possibly could. Whether it was a simple task or well beyond my abilities, he expected me to accept each task with pride, knowing that only my best effort was good enough. While I learned this, really was shown this at a very young age, it wasn't until later where he actually explained it. On the job, any job, there are 3 types of approaches. The first approach, you can choose to ignore it. step over the board, or simply walk around it, avoiding it altogether. The second approach, you can ask somebody what to do with it, or help somebody who has already taken the initiative to place the board where it belongs. The third approach, which I was shown, is to pick up the board and not let it go until it's in its proper place. This persistence and determination has contributed more to my success than talent, intellect, or education. While this lesson was reiterated, it was never really taught to me as a child. Rather, throughout my entire childhood, time and again, it was demonstrated to me. Simply put, my father was the hardest worker I have ever known. Fundamentally, I believe that work ethic is something that cannot be taught, but is actually shown. I find that is the case with most inert values. Sure, you can talk about them, but by living them, showing them in all of our actions is the best way for me to pass them on. I do that with my kids, I do that with my peers, I do that with our team, and it comes across as not something I say, but rather it's just part of what I do, the foundation of who I am, the foundation of what I expect from them. Throughout my career, I've always been one of the first ones into the office and one of the last ones to leave. Trust me, my success was never achieved by only working a 40 or 50-hour week, never achieved by simply committing to the minimal effort. Success was never achieved by working less hours than my peers or ensuring that deadlines were missed. Whether it was praise from leaders, peers, or team members, I've always been proud that I'm called a hard worker, proud that others admire the work ethic that I demonstrate. Fundamentally, your success is your choice. Think about that as you enter your professional career. Are you going to choose to be successful? Are you going to choose the lesser path? Now, I'm not saying that people intentionally choose to be unsuccessful, but we each choose how hard we're going to work at any given task, at every given task. Apply your inner passion for everything you do, and I promise you, success will follow. Finally, I'd like to make a brief comment about the almost evolutionary changes to OSU and the engineering department in the last 20 years. The change has been truly remarkable. We are now a university that is literally bursting at the seams, nationally recognized for engineering excellence, both inside of the classroom and within our research disciplines, and we finally have a football team that actually wins more games than loses. Just a side note, when I was here, we were ranked the 241st best football team in the nation, and there's 191 Division I schools. I think that part of it to Coach Riley. But on the last one, within EECS, we have to acknowledge the excellence of the faculty and the passion, persistence, and determination by Dr. Fees. Once again, I'd like to congratulate you on the outstanding performance by being able to sit here today. Each of you has already demonstrated your ability to succeed. Rededicate yourself. I challenge you. Again, rededicate yourself to applying even greater levels of passion, persistence, and determination within your professional life. Be the first one to pick up the board and the last one to let it go. With that, I'm confident that each of you will succeed. Thank you again for allowing me to be part of this special night, and go Beavs.